Hey, Design 264, what's up, y'all? It's Avery. Welcome back to the internet. Today, tutorial. We are in Blender. We're going to do animated text as quick as I can. I'm going to show you two different ways. One using just the text tool in Blender, and then the other way using PNGs that you have generated in Illustrator. Okay, let's go over to Blender. And for this one, I recommend just using the stage set template that I sent to you all because it has the orthographic camera all set up, and the dimensions of the camera are set up, the 885 pixels by 1080 pixels. That's here in this render here, 885 by 1080. It's all pretty much set. So let's just use this and mess around with it. So there's the origin, right there in front of our camera. I'm going to toggle off the gizmos for now because they kind of get in the way. And let's add text. So it's Shift A, and then you can see here you have a text object. Click text. You can see by default, like if I go back to the camera view, viewpoint camera, you see I can't see my text. Let's hit the tilde, which is to the left of the 1 on your numbers, and then you can hit the top view, and you can see there's the text. So it comes in on the XY axis, or aligned with the Z axis, which is the vertical axis. When you have text, you can see in right here you have the text tab that you can use to edit some of the details of the text. But in order to change what the text says, you have to go into edit mode. So object mode is up here. Click that. You can go to edit mode. Remember, you can also hit tab. Okay, so tab, and then you just start typing. This is text, y'all. Okay, and then to get out of that, you just hit tab. So now we're back in object mode. Let's say we want to wrap this around a circle. So we'll hit double A to make it not selected, A twice, then Shift A, and we'll add a curve, and then a circle. And you can see it just comes in right there at the origin point. Let's make it bigger so it sort of corresponds with the scale of the text. So it's selected, our Bezier circle is selected, so hit S to scale it up, and scale it up. So now you can imagine the text will be wrapping around this. In order to do that, now we come back to our text, select it. We want to go to the modifier tab, which is right here, this wrench. Add a modifier. We're going to add a curve. What is our curve object? You guessed it, the Bezier circle. We have curve text. All right, so there are a couple of different options that you can do if you're not fully satisfied with kind of the location of the text. So you would think that you would hit R to rotate the text, but it's actually the relationship between the curve, the Bezier circle, and the text has to do with the X location. So imagine we kind of deformed the X location. Remember, it was this red line, so the text was aligned on here. We deformed it, so now the red line is essentially this circle. So that means you move the text along the red line, which is now the circle, and that is X. So G to move, to transform on your keyboard with the text selected, and then X to constrain it along the X-axis, and then you can just move your text just like that. And notice what's going on right here. If you can see where my cursor is, up in the top right, where we have the transform panel here, we're moving along the X-axis, and that's the rotation. So what does that mean? You can add a keyframe to this. So if I hit escape, and actually let's say I want my text to be G for move, and I'll hit X. I want it to be there in the beginning, and then I'm going to hit I to do, and this is like a gentle or a public service announcement in the form of we should always do location, rotation, scale when you're doing your keyframe, just in case down the road you decide, oh, actually I want to have a location, a rotation keyframe from the beginning. If you don't have that, it gets complicated in terms of like reasserting keyframes in the beginning. So do location, rotation, scale. And then let's say we want to go to the halfway point, 60 frames of our 120 frame animation. And we're going to hit G and X and rotate, which is just moving along the X-axis, remember, all the way back to kind of like where we think it started. And then I'll hit I for the keyframe, location, rotation, scale. And now if I go back to jump to the endpoint, which is the first frame, you can see I have a sweet animation. And let's I'm going to remind you how to duplicate the first one. So if you wanted to kind of go do it again or like kind of go in reverse, select your first frame right here, make sure it's yellow, Shift D to duplicate it, and then go to your last frame. So this is a nice way to get a loop, kind of like a, what do you call that, a ping pong loop or whatever, the back and forth loop. So it's moving now, and then when I'm happy it's on 120, which I can kind of like snap into that place, I can click the left mouse button, and now watch what happens. Wow, a little bounce. Cool. So because I keyframed the rotation in this as well, I can come actually to my middle keyframe, and when it's hovered over it and I have it selected, I can add a rotation to the text. So the text is selected, the playhead is over top of my keyframe that is at 60 frames, and then if I hit R, X, so remember the X-axis is the one it moves along, so if that's the one I want to rotate it along, I can rotate it along that X-axis, and I'm going to hit 90 because I want it to just stand up. And then I want to make sure that this is keyframe, this modification I made. So I'm going to do the same thing. I, location, rotation, scale, keyframe that gem in. And then you have this. It comes up, and it goes back down. Ooh. So let's view Viewpoint Camera and sort of see what this is looking like. Wow. Weird, right? So it might not be what we want with the orthographic camera. So if that is the case, come here to Camera, and we can go here and set it to perspective. And maybe we want to zoom out. And so when we have the camera selected and we want to move it along the y-axis, because remember the camera is situated along this y-axis, we can move it back just like that. And let's go to Viewpoint, Camera, cool. Now if we hit play, it's kind of small, so maybe we'll zoom back in. Yeah, to something like that. And then what if you're not totally satisfied with the flatness of this thing? Well, let's make sure our text is selected, and then we can come to the text tool, and we're gonna the text tab right here, and then in geometry, we want to extrude this gem. So right now it's 0 feet extruded. Let's extrude as much as we like. So now we have extruded text that is at times legible and at times becomes these shapes. Cool. All right. So again, we'll go over the rendering this out, but I think that actually is good for the text right now, and we'll leave it at that. No, actually, let me just tell you, you can add materials to this as you can add materials to other things. So let's add a new material to this text. Again, I like to just show you what's going on with the metallic because it's satisfying. And let's take the roughness down so that it's just super glossy text. And then let's come to Viewpoint Camera. I'm going to come to so it's like you can see. And in the world setup that I made for you, there's this HDR, which is an environment that surrounds that everything is contained within. It's a garden. So then I can just show you really quickly in a render image what this would look like. So you can see that the garden is visible. So if you want to like block out the garden, we're gonna have to put an image in like a plane in the place to block it. So let me show you that really quickly. So I'm gonna double A to make sure nothing's selected, Shift A, and then I'm at a mesh, a plane. I'm going to scale it up. Right now it's along the the XY axis. I'm going to want it along the Z, which is the vertical axis. So rotate, I'm going to rotate along the X, and then I'm going to do 90. It's going to be in the way of my text, so I need to move it backwards along the Y, right? The green axis. Cool. And you can say it won't get in the way of my text. So it by default is this kind of whitish gray, which is actually not a material. It's totally fine, but if you want to add a material, you need to come to the Materials tab, add a material, make it what you need to make it. And it will have like a specular to it. It will have like halfway roughness. This is kind of the defaults, and it's sort of like a slightly glossy look to it. But let's look at the camera. Cool. Let's go right there, and let's just see what it looks like in a render. Awesome. So you can see that the HDR is being reflected on the text, which is super glossy, and then we have this pink background. There are things we can do to add lights to it. We won't go over that now. I just sort of wanted to show you what you can do with the text tool to animate it, and then extrude it, and then give it a material. We'll talk about the PNG text animation later. I gotta go. I'm back. Okay, so I just wanted to show you. It's all very exciting, and I need to show you these things because it's really great. So you have it on a circle, so it goes to a circle, which is this Bezier curve. But hey, we could freaking mess with the Bezier curve in edit mode. So right now we're in object mode. We want to make sure our Bezier curve is selected. Hit Tab, and then you can see it's got these Bezier anchor points that we're familiar with in Illustrator. It is slightly different to manipulate them in Blender, but once it's in this in edit mode, you can click on what is called the anchor point right in Illustrator, and you can move it. I'm actually going to go to the top view, so I'm going to hit the tilde and then top, and it will just move my circle along the X and the Y, and I don't have to worry about the Z. Maybe you want to move along the Z, but let's do this just first. So it's constrained on the X and Y, so anything I move, it won't go up into the that vertical axis. So I can hit G and just move this thing, or I can, so with it selected, or I can come over here and grab the move tool and move this thing. And you can see what it's doing. It's messing with my text because we're changing the shape of the curve, which it's constrained to. If you want to select another one and move it, you can move it like that. So that's selecting the handle of the Bezier, right? If you're thinking about the terminology from Illustrator. I'm going to go back tilde, and then the top view, so I can hit T. And then you can also add anchor points. It's a little different than in Illustrator, but I'll show you what you do. So let's come back to the selection tool. You select one, this is selection tool. Select your anchor point, then shift select another anchor point. Then hit the right mouse key and subdivide. And we've made an anchor point. If you want to add more, before you kind of click anywhere else, come to this box that's sort of compressed, open it, and you can see you can add subdivisions. I just want one. Boop. All right, and then I can click on my subdivision right away and move that. Cool. And actually, let's say I want to move it along the Z. So G is another way to move things, and then Z. And now I have this kind of wild animation. Awesome. Okay, that's truly it. And I hope that this is exciting for you as it is exciting for me. Goodbye.